I would answer that question in two ways. The first thing that I would say I wasn't equipped coming out of seminary for was the leadership component of pastoring. Our particular seminary did a masterful job teaching us how to preach and emphasizing our own spiritual formation and those sorts of things. But what was lacking, at least in my case, was knowledge coming out of seminary about how to lead people and how to structure organizations and how to value administration as a gift of the Holy Spirit. And so I've been playing catch up, for a lot of years, reading business books and such. And the second thing that I wasn't prepared for was the level of criticism that pastors in particular receive, that people take the smallest thing, or what may feel small to us, that we may say in a sermon and inflate it into something that we didn't intend, and just realizing how our words impact other people's stories by virtue of what their stories are. And if you're preaching to 100 or 1,000 people, you've got 100 or 1,000 different life experiences, and therefore a bunch of different interpretive grids about what you're trying to say. And remember Scotty Smith once telling me about this dynamic in his own ministry, and I've tried to just kind of remember it when criticism comes. He said, he would preach a sermon, and one person would come up to him afterwards and say, "That sermon changed my life," and then the next person would come up to him and say, "That sermon ruined my life." And I wasn't expecting criticism to be so automatic, even on our best days and in our best seasons, but it's always there. And I think it's something that God allows, something that God permits in order to keep us humble, to keep us reminded of our own frailty. Tim Keller's a terrific example. I got to work alongside Tim for 5 years. Tim gets unfairly criticized every day on the internet and in many other places, and I never once saw him strike back, never once saw him get defensive or angry, and saw him many times sort of run to John Newton's letter about receiving even unfair criticism, where John Newton says, look even for the kernel of truth in an unfair criticism. Or like Jack Miller said, just keep in mind, if somebody unfairly criticizes you, they don't know the half of it, and you should probably thank them for not saying what's true about you, because what's true is actually usually worse than what's maybe falsely said about us sometimes. And so just the humility opportunity that either fair, legitimate, or unfair and not legitimate criticism can bring, I think is a gift to us, and it keeps us humble, because we're only effective when we're humble.